Hi everyone, it's Desiree and I am here with Birch Press Design and another design team project. For today's project, we are going to work with the Crystal Lingo stamp and die set. So very odd. It took me a while to keep looking at this and say, what can we do here? So I finally came up with an idea. Because if I stared at that image long enough, something appeared for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that image and I'm going to put it down. I'm using my Canson XL watercolor paper. Now, this will not fit in my stamp positioning tool. This is about 9 inches long, and it's not set for that length, and I'm not buying another one to fit that length. So what I chose to do, and if you're in that situation, so what I did was I placed my stamp where I wanted it to go on my watercolor. I did want a border just in case I made any mistakes or happy accidents, as I like to call them. So I'm going to use the plastic film from the stamp packaging. I'm going to place it on there. I use my VersaFine black ink because I do want to use my clear embossing powder, and I use that to smooth over on, so that I could move that stamp and then I would be able to pick that stamp up. You just want to make sure that that stamp is adhering to the plastic sheet. So it could be any piece of acetate. Now to make sure, what did I do? I shook the piece of acetate with the stamp on it. And not violently, but just to make sure that it wasn't going to fall off. So now that I have that stamped and I used my clear embossing powder from Michaels, I used my painter's tape and I'm just painting it right down to my craft mat here. And this is my Altenew craft mat. Don't need to have a board on it or anything else, not looking to move this. I then grabbed my Altenew watercolor pan set, and I'm just mixing up some colors. So this is going to be like a deeper tone when it comes to the colors that I'm going to color with. So some could look at this and say, hey, this is a masculine card that we're going for. Or some may say, hey, this has a mixed media feel to it, because I pull in other mediums in to color this image. Because again, I just keep going with it until I finally say, okay, you know what? I kind of like that, and we're going to stop right there. So I have my green and a blue-green mixture, and I'm going to do this around a section. Now you can see the section that I'm going around with is in the shape of a heart. So again, look at this image and see what can form. Now, there's also like other hearts in the back of this that could easily be pulled out, so that you can color them, and so forth. So again, when you stare at something long enough, you either go, huh? Or you figure something out. You know, I'm envisioning the way that I stare at my husband for a while, right? I'm just saying. He has his moments. Okay, so here's where I went, whoa, bad idea. So I started with the yellow, and I should have done a mix first. So that's fine. I have my yellow down. I'm going to add now a red. Now this really went orange. I really didn't want it to be orangey. I want it to be a purple red. So then I figured, okay, I'll add this color, and I even forget the color that I added. Yeah, that didn't work either because I had that yellow undertone. You know, again, I was getting close to mud as I was doing this, so I just stopped and brought in my heat tool and just dried this. Now remember, when you use watercolors, they will dry lighter than what's on your paper when you get them to that point. They do dry back, so they're not going to be as vibrant as what they look when they're wet, per se. But I did like the two shades, so I started coming in with some colored pencils. I'm like, okay, I'm going to add some shading this way and just make that a little darker. Then I changed my mind. I wanted to use my watercolor pencils. So I have a big pottery cup just filled with the extra watercolor pencils that I have, whether they were from kids or the graciousness of some of my followers that have sent me items. It's amazing, and no one has to do that. But I keep them all in a cup right by me. So if I'm looking to add just that little bit of color, just a little bit of a splash, they're right there. I don't have to pull out a set and dig through that. So I'm just coming in and I'm going along the edges, filling in the corners with this. Now this is actually a navy blue that I'm going over the blue-green areas, or the green-blue areas, however you want to say that. You want to say green-blue because there's more green than there is blue. Just so that I can deepen them, I'm going to come in with my water brush and just move it around. Again, I'm not really looking to blend. I'm looking to just add some more color to this. For the heart itself, I'm coming in with a deep red violet. It does have a purple tint to it, but a bright purple. It's almost, it's like a red violet, like a pinky violet, if that's even a word. Oh, it is today. And you can see when I add water, you can see that pink just comes through. Unfortunately, though, while I like it, you know, it really added depth to the heart. It still kind of stayed the same color, which is fine, but it did add some depth to it. So it added another layer just to help make that stand out. Now I'm just going to go through and I'm going to add that navy blue to my other shapes throughout this piece. And again, just to add more color. One side's a little bit heavier than the other side, which I'm fine with. Again, these are different mediums coming together. So hence the term mixed media. You know, we're adding some different layers. We're adding other layers. I think this piece would be interesting. There's another project that I've come up with for this. And I can't wait. That's actually going to be the next one or the one after that. So stay tuned. Something really, really cool. Really, really awesome. And I really look forward to doing that. All right, so now I grabbed my long shears and I'm just cutting along that embossed line because I was not neat. I didn't feel like being neat. When I do mixed media, I love to have fun. That means getting inky. That means splashing it all across my table. That means wearing it. That means my husband stays out of the room because he's afraid he's going to get hit by something. You know, all that fun stuff. I then came in with my Memento Tuxedo black marker and went around the edges because then it gives that solid, clean cut line. I'm using my 2-inch film tape by Uline. This is very strong. This is wonderful. So whenever I work on a project that has a lot of water and I'm putting it onto my card base, I always do use that because it will flatten the watercolor paper out and it will not recurl. I don't worry about the warping because that tape solves that problem. It is not a forgiving tape. The moment it touches paper, it's there. It's not something that you can pull apart. It lasts forever because it is kind of at a high price point. But I just absolutely love it. And that is my go-to for my fun foam and also when I'm adhering a watercolor panel. And then I created multiple layers. I've got 4 layers going on here. I've got the black because I created a 3.5 by 8.5 inch slimline. That's my first base. Then I created another base to be 3.25 by 8.25 with kind of the same color of the green-blue background. Then I created another mat in the black. That's the one that was propped up. And then I have my panel of the watercolor on top. So it kind of creates this step effect on the front of the card. The sentiment that I'm going to use from this set says loving. So again, have the heart. I just thought loving would be great. Again, this is like a note card. That's all I'm going to do. You can add, this stamp set has other sentiments that you can add. You know, loving thoughts of you, loving that I can count on you. You know, those types of things. I think it's great just to have this and then write your note on the inside. Make it a true snail mail thing where you write somebody a note. After I stamped this, I grabbed my black ink Emboss It pen from Ranger, tested it to make sure that it was still, kind of juicy, and this is. So I'm filling in that sentiment. I want it to be a solid black, and this is an outline sentiment, which is great because you have then the option to use colored pencils, watercolors, whatever you want to color that in, or hey, have fun fussy cutting it. I'm going to add my clear embossing powder by Michaels. It's the Recollections brand, and I'm going to heat set this. Now, this is kind of a big sentiment, and I really wanted it smooth. I wanted it to have a dome look. So while it's still warm, I add more embossing powder. I make sure my heat tool's on there. I'm sorry, I'm splashing around this heat tool, so it's making my camera shake. But while it's warm, I'm adding more embossing powder to this. When I do that, you can see that smooth effect that you get when you have that big of an area. I am a true fan of the Recollections embossing powder. I think it does great, whether it's a fine detail sentiment or something like this. I'm going to use the dies that are also available separately for these sentiments, and I'm going to place that on top of my image. Now, what I stamped this on was the same watercolor paper because I wanted that background to be the same color. I felt it was too bright. I didn't want really any white on this, so I did come in with my vintage photo. I'm sure somebody will say, no, it's okay. For yours, don't use it. But I just wanted to keep this toned down. I wanted these colors. I didn't want them bright and wah. There they are. I wanted them to be kind of, toned down colors. It doesn't mean that we can't jazz this up. Doesn't mean that we can't add all kinds of fun items to this. One of those being are by Open Studio Memory Box. They have these great dewdrops that are great to accent your pieces. They are called fairy drops, and there are 100 self-adhesive multiple sizes in this packet. So I'm just adding those every so often. I put the large one right in on the heart itself, just so that would help that stand out just a little bit more. I did also go in, if you saw, with my Spectrum Noir Sparkle, and I went along the edge of that second layer that's close to the color of the panel that I watercolored, just to give that some sparkle and shine as well. So just added just a little bit to this. So I hope you enjoyed this project for today with Birch Press Design. Again, look at your image. When you have these images, stare at them, and eventually you may just see something pop out at you. And I did. I saw that heart. And again, as I continue to look at this, I see other hearts, that could have been identified and pulled out in some way, which would have been, awesome. I do see 3 of them going across this, and that includes the one that I did. So again, I hope you enjoyed it. Hope I gave you an idea to look at what you have in a different way. As always, the products that I used will be listed down below in the video description. And if you have any questions, please make sure you leave those down below as well, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Smile, giggle, laugh, and enjoy. But always remember what's most important for me. Always, guys, be creative. Till next time.